Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Mix's Review. And for today's show, we decided to mix up Tootall. Oh, I almost forgot. In this show, we mix up a body of work that we find on all the flavors. So I'll kick off with one recipe that I did here. There's so many recipes that Tootall has released. Okay. It took me like literally about an hour to maybe 2 hours to read through all the recipes. And so, an enormous amount of work from his side, which, I can commend him on. But one of the recipes that really stood out for me, and, I would have never really found that I like this so much if it wasn't for the show. It was Tootall's Dragon's Breath. Okay, now Dragon's Breath, it contains 1% blood orange, Flavora blood orange, 3% TFA dragon fruit, 1.5% FA juicy strawberry, 3% TFA strawberry ripe. Now that was a really interesting recipe for me. The blood orange really stood out there because since I vaped on that fantastic or Fantasia remix from Daz Cole, I really, really, really like blood orange mixes or something with a little bit of blood orange in it. The only problem is we can't find, or I couldn't find, FLV blood orange. And if I went to go and read what Tootall said there about FLV blood orange and how great it is and how it's his favorite blood orange right now. But, I still wanted to mix up the recipe. So I kind of rate at this point in time, because I haven't tried that FLV blood orange, I rate Flavor West blood orange. It's my favorite, right? And let's just read what he says about this recipe. So this recipe came about by having someone I make juice for wanting a bottle of Dragon Lady. The only problem is he isn't the only person I make this juice for that loves Dragon Lady, and I ran out of Flavor Art Kiwi, so I decided to add a third different fruit. I wanted it to be bright fruit, so I could lift the other flavors up. I landed on 1% Flavora blood orange. I'm in love with blood orange, with this blood orange flavor. At 1%, it makes this very orange prominent recipe. Maybe not necessarily orange prominent, but its own fruit. It doesn't taste distinctly like any of the three fruits in this recipe, but more of a perfect concoction of all these fruits in one. And that's something we always talk about. And he says there it's a perfect summertime vape, and we need to give it a whirl. We won't be disappointed. So yeah, I had a problem here, of course. I didn't have FLV blood orange, so I subbed it there. But if I read what his description is, and I did a 1-to-1 sub, so I subbed it with 1% blood orange. And you know what? It's a perfect sub here for me. I'm getting exactly the same as what Tootall is talking about here. The best way I can actually describe this, is a dry orange berry. So it's a mixture of all those things: dragon fruit, orange, and berry. Now, I really, really enjoyed this. This is definitely, something that has, it's not just, you're not just getting three different fruits, but you're getting the sum of all its parts, so you're getting orange in front, that's combined with the dragon fruit, and then it almost feels like, at the tip of it, you're getting a strawberry. And because of all of that, this is a, nice full mouthfeel kind of vape, which is really bizarre for a fruity mix. I also thought to myself that, you know, the second mix of this that I will do, I'll add a little bit of WS-23 just to cool things down a little bit. This doesn't vape hot at all, so it's not because of that. I think it will do well with a little bit of coolness to it. I also added in, as suggested, a little bit of super sweet to this mix, and you know, it came out extremely well. I can definitely recommend this recipe. I can recommend even with this sub that I've done in here. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So I had fun with this recipe. I'm definitely going to play around and maybe even, you know, try a remix of this with my sub in.
It's good to know that the sub works, because Flavora Blood Orange is not easy to source here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely, I've also been trying to look for it. Not even Black ends it.
Yeah, exactly.
You must know.
I was looking on the BLCK side, I couldn't find it, and then I just thought,
keep checking everyone. New updates now.
Do Flavora have no flyers? I think there probably are some in there.
It could be. I'll have to speak to Richo and them to find out if this is part of the no flyers, but I really don't know. Deetz, what did you mix up?
Okay, so for Tootall, I went with the pink. Sorry, I did pink kiwi, and I'm gonna go with another one first, the grapple. Yeah, he did the grapple with the following concentrates: 0.35 Inuera cactus, 3% FA Fuji, and 1% Inuera grape. So just looking at the recipes percentages, it's something I figured I would like. Grape specifically, I'm not a big fan of. I've been really trying to find a fruit, a more realistic fruit or fruit juice like purple grape. I found white grape, but the white grape and all grapes I've tried leaves a very specific, I can almost call it a artificial flavor, but it's weird. It's got a funky taste or aftertaste that it leaves. It is artificial, but there's something very weird, like, I wouldn't say silicone, but I can explain it maybe as a gummy or like gluey type of aftertaste. It's difficult to explain. I've even had it as a copper, or if you mixed it too high, it's like a copper or coiny metal aftertaste. So,
are you talking specifically about Inuera grape?
No, not specifically Inuera, but all grapes I've tried so far, specifically the purple grapes or a candy purple grape, those type of grapes. So out of all of the grapes I've tried, Inuera has the least aftertaste of all of them, but all grapes still has a specific aftertaste for me, and that's why I kind of stay away from the grapes. I've tried a lot of them, but I've never found one that's fruit juice like realistic profile.
I can relate to what you're saying there, because, you know, I've been trying to, you know, play around with grapes. I mean, and I specifically want that artificial grape because, you know, I like my sodas, and I was looking for like a Fanta grape type of soda. Flavor West grape soda is pretty good to work with, you know. But as soon as you start adding like a gummy to it, then it feels like the EM in it is too high, and then you get this overwhelming candy sort of flavor to it, you know, almost like you're sucking on a grape candy, and you can't you know, bend it towards a soda because it's so overwhelming as far as the candy goes. Yeah, sorry, but that was just a little bit of
Well, with that said, that's mainly my reason why I don't normally go for grapes, and I had really good expectations for grack. Everyone went on and raved about that. I got it. I hated it because of how high the cactus is. And I love the cactus. So when I saw cactus at 0.35, I was quite happy with that. Inuera grape I've worked before, I've used before, and I like it. Out of all the grapes I've used and disliked, this is the one that I still have, and I've bought it, I think, twice. So I like Inuera grape. And then obviously Fuji is Fuji. There's always something I like about that. So I mixed it up, and I found that out of all the grape, and specifically the grape and cactus combinations that I have vaped, this is the best one out of all of them. I do not like grapes, and I gave the reason why. But with that said, this is still a good recipe for me. If I could just go to my notes here, I would say I've not managed to find a grape that I've really liked. They all seem to leave this weird, funky, artificial aftertaste. Some even a copper, coiny taste. So I personally don't like to mix with grapes. But out of the ones I've mixed, including the grape juice, this is the best one. I'm sure that it is because of the Fuji apple. The Fuji apple, and it's funny because we spoke a little bit earlier about this, or maybe we can go back to that when you talk about it. But the Fuji apple mellows out that even at 0.35, the cactus with grape, specifically the cactus with grape combination, brings a third weird something going. With its low or high percentages, it's just either more of or less of that flavor, but it's there. And with the Fuji at 3%, where I would normally get that strong Fuji, I still get it, but it's kind of mixed with that third flavor that cactus and grape normally makes. So the thing that I disliked about it has been sorted out with this, with the Fuji. So I really like it. It's a very light grape. It's not that super flavor type of candy grape in your face. It's a very light grape, and even with some WS23 I've mixed it up with, and it works very well. I like to add sweetener because I think with this specifically there, just that even if you don't like sweetener, I would still add sweetener with it because of the way that the profiles mix together. So of all the grape and cactus recipes I've mixed, this is for me the best one so far. It's very simple, and I think because I really like the simple recipes, it's not that I'm lazy or a cheap date, you know. It's simple. So for me, it's almost like being skilled at it. Yes, there's also a lot of skilled when you build with layers and all of that, but when you can create something very complex from something very simple with three ingredients, then that to me counts as a point too. That's what I think about when I rate these things. So because it's a grape, it's the best grape I've tried out of all of them, but because it's a grape, I rate it at about a 4. Because it's a simple recipe, I would rate it at about a 4.5. And then I also put down that I would definitely mix it again. So it's a good grape recipe. The Fuji apple isn't really all apple there in your face, but you do know you get that Fuji apple profile that it brings in. It's just not as noticeable as you would have thought at 3%. So the recipe blends together very nicely, and that's my notes on that one.
Yeah, I also mixed up this one, you know, but I didn't have the same experience as you did. I have problems with FA Fuji. I'm not tasting it the same way everybody else is tasting it, and then what happens is, you know, in the vape experience, I almost get this weird chalky dead spot in the mix. Okay, which is, you know, like it feels like a blank spot.
Did you mix with syringes or with the scale?
Don't start, dude. Like, listen.
No, look,
my Fuji apple. Where is my Fuji apple? It must be
in the same way. I think my grape taste is broken. I've heard of people who taste strawberry as cardboard or garbage or newspaper. I think my grape taste is not on. I think something's broken there. That's why I just can't find that perfect grape. You know, liquid fruit. We've got that liquid fruit juice in the boxes. There's a purple grape. That's the grape I'm looking for. But there's some very close to it, but they leave that funky flavor.
Maybe try a little bit of Concord grape. I think if you're looking for legit grape juice, sort of, that's a good way to go. But I mean, it's very strong, very potent. But yeah, so what I was, you know, so I had this weird dead spot, and then the only things that I was tasting in this, so I'm, you know, it was Grapple WMC round 1. Okay, This is the one I mixed up. So, Inawera grape has a little bit of chalkiness to it, but I think cactus was added here to battle that. So I don't think this here is a 3-fruit mix. I think it's a 2-fruit mix. It's it's grape and apple together, but the cactus was just added here at 0.35 to combat some of that chalkiness, in the mix.
Yeah.
So, but does this transcend into like, a apple grape, and I didn't really find it. I experienced that I taste the cactus and the grape together, and I just have this dead spot. I think I might need to replace this Fuji apple of mine. I'm just scared of doing that because I've been rather disappointed with Fuji apple, and I might be the only one saying that. But
I don't know. I mean, I agree with you. That's why I said it might not be as prominent as you would think it is at 3%. Maybe as you've mixed it in something else. It might be because of the way it's battling against the grape profile then, or the grape and cactus combined profile. But even with the liquid fruit, you will see on all these liquid fruit boxes, there's a main profile, but you'll always see it's mixed with apple and pear.
Yeah.
Yes. Now the apple is obviously to bulk up the liquid, and the bulk of the profile is from a concentrated, let's say the grape then. In this case, you won't really taste the apple and you get more of the grape, but there is like that juiciness that it adds to the grape from the apple Fuji. That's what I feel, but it's not Fuji on its own or
because what he says here is, that's what threw me a little bit with this recipe. This is my grapple. A grapple is a grape flavored apple. Okay, I've tried so many fruit combinations in the last few days. I finally decided to build a fruit or genetically modified fruit. I chose Fuji by Flavor Art for my apple. I used it at 3% because it was the right amount to allow all the aspects to come through without making you forget that this is an apple first foremost, right?
Okay.
So, I'm kind of missing that in this recipe.
Okay, no, I must be honest. I read it, but I read it and then went for the concentrate. So I mix it, and a lot of the time I read it and I get that. So I didn't really go into that detail. My idea wasn't that it's apple main or apple first. So then I tend to agree with you. The apple isn't there in the way that he says it is. Definitely. Interesting.
Cool.
Rich, what did you mix?
Okay, just in terms of the grape, coming back to the grape, have either of you tried TFA grape juice?
I have tried the TFA grape juice. I've tried also white grape, and then the Concord that Theo mentioned. I've tried that. Okay. But I think the TFA grape I overused in percentage. You see, as you guys have heard with me, specifically in the beginning when I mixed, and that's when also I started with the grapes and stuff, I overmixed everything with percentages. So I think the TFA grape was one of the closest to, but I overmixed it in percentages. So I might revisit that.
Inawera grape frightens me. I bought it specifically for Grack, and Grack is the only juice I mixed it in, and I've never gone back to it since. I open the bottle and smell it, and I just get flashbacks to Grack. So it kind of.
I feel the same. It's just one of those, and I think you're in a very small group of people who like it. I might be wrong. Maybe we are the small group of people who don't like it, but that's just too weird. Yeah,
no, it was too weird for me, and I just, every time I open Inawera grape and smell it now, I get that kind of, I get those flashbacks. So I've sort of avoided using it since then. It's also one of those mega potent chemical Inawera flavors where it's, it's actually too strong. It kind of pushes into chemical very quickly. So grape is not my favorite. I haven't tried the TFA grape juice. I've heard that is one of the more realistic ones. The FA grapes are also mega potent, and you use a fraction too much, and it goes into that dry, powdery, chemical sort of nastiness. Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, my recipes deciding on something from Tootall almost drove me insane, because he has literally about 25 recipes where I have first rule on one concentrate. I've got everything else and I lack one. And sometimes it's not even one concentrate. I'm not even a concentrate out, I'm a version out. Like he will use a cap V1 and I've only got the V2 or whatever. So it drove me mad. I saw all these recipes I wanted to mix, and there was always just the one out. But I found three. One of them's been in my rotation for a while. The other two are relatively new to me, and I could make the OG on all of these. I'll tackle them in the... I'll tackle the first one, then we'll go to Deetz's other recipe, then I'll come back for the other two. So I'll start with the simplest one. And that was his blue Zeppola. Apparently he was chasing a commercial profile here, which is a blueberry donut with powdered sugar on. So a very simple profile. And he chose to go after it with 6% Flavor West blueberry as the blueberry note, 5% FA Zeppola as the donut base, and then 1% FA meringue with 0.3% FA Tyrone as the powdered sugar. So it's quite simple, quite linear. The three distinct components of the flavor, the fruit, the donut base, and the powdered sugar. I've done quite a lot of blueberry bakeries over the past year or so. And it's always interesting for me how different mixes layer in the blueberry at different prominence levels. Now, for me, the benchmark, the way I like my blueberry is Joel's French Fellow. There, he also uses, I think it's the FW blueberry, but he does it at a very low percentage, and it just gives that slight accent of blueberry to the mix. That is how I like it. Then at the other end of the spectrum, there was Slashalo's ABGD, another blueberry glazed donut, which uses the blueberry trilogy, and it makes a very prominent, in-your-face, bright blueberry glaze, which he puts on his donut. So right at the other end of the spectrum, where the blueberry is very prominent and very upfront. This one, Tootall's Blue Zeppola, sort of sits in the middle of the two. The blueberry it's more prominent than Joel's, but less prominent than Slashalo's. So that was fine. Of course, Zeppola is a great base, and then if you're looking for powdered sugar, meringue and Tyrone is kind of an accepted and classic combo. For me, there's nothing wrong with this. The balance is good. The balance between the blueberry, the bakery, and the sugar is good, but it's reading a little simple and a little dry for my tastes. I like my bakeries to have a little bit of frosting, a little bit of glazing, something there just to blend the fruit and the bakery base together, and I'm missing that in this. I mean, I get that he was chasing a dry donut commercial profile, so he was staying true to what the original commercial juice offered, and that is fine, and he pulls it off well. But just for me, I'm missing some sort of cream or frosting component there, which is what I like to sort of pull everything in my blueberry bakeries together. And that is what I found was very appealing about Slashalo's ABGD, is that blueberry glaze works as a really good bridge between the bakery base and the trilogy of blueberries that he used. So this is a very capable mix. It's a pleasant mix. There's nothing off about it. The balance is good, and it's tasty. But just for my palate, I would want to moisten it up just a little bit, add in a little bit of frosting, something with a BAF cream or a CCI or something to just temper that dryness a bit, and to just make the whole thing hang together a little bit better for me. So that was my notes on the Blue Zeppola.
So what are you getting? Are you getting like a semi-disjointed sort of experience and not so well blended together?
Um,
Or
it hangs together reasonably well, but it does register as, as he says, it's a dry donut base with blueberries and powdered sugar on top, and it does kind of read that way. You've got the three distinct components. There's no real overlap in them. The sugar sits separately from the blueberry, which sits separately from the donut base, and they all come together. I mean, it does register as a bakery foodstuff that you're eating, but it's if I ate it as a real foodstuff, I'd be thinking, where's the icing on the twins? Where's the frosting? That is what I want to kind of just move it to the level of blended flavor that I like. So, as I say, with the flavors that he's got, it's put together well. But again, we have to bear in mind he was chasing a commercial profile. I think somebody asked him to mix this, and that was his take on it. So maybe not the mix that he would ideally have liked, but just his take on a commercial view. So one has to factor that in.
So what you're saying is, you just want something in between the actual donut and the blueberries, just so that the two flavors are not so separate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So just to blend those two flavors together, potentially like a cream, like Bavarian cream or something like that.
Yeah. For me, creams are very good at just filling in holes.
Yeah.
You've got pillars of flavor in your juice. The cream just kind of fills those gaps in between those pillars of flavor and makes it stand together as one smooth, homogeneous kind of whole.
Yes.
And again, it's not a mistake, because there are people who are going to say, no, I want my flavors separated. I don't want the thing muddied by having a cream filling those holes. So it's personal taste, it's personal palate preference, and my preference is just to have a frosting on there.
Okay, so lastly for Tootall, I mixed the pink kiwi, and I really enjoyed this one a lot. Especially when I read the ingredients. I mean, pink guava, I've been on a pink guava binge for the last couple of weeks. Prickly Victory has been going by the liter. So I've been really loving my guava. So I got happy when I read this. The percentages are 2% TFA dragon fruit, 3% FA kiwi, and 1% pink guava FLV. So to me, this is another one of those alchemical DIY wonders where there's 3 ingredients and some magic gold that pops out the other end. I can really only explain the way that these 3 concentrates blend as they blend into this magical fucking fairy dust or fairy nectar. Fairy nectar. It's very weird to explain. The pinkness is definitely there. It's probably because of the picture or the title, but it's definitely there. I expected a very earthy note to the kiwi. I mean, the kiwi is at 3%, so I expected that earthy note that I always get, especially in the first couple of days, the first 3 days, where it was just not there. This all worked beautifully from the moment I tasted it, which was the day after. I had it on the stirrer for a couple of hours, probably about 6 hours or so, and then it's steeped overnight or for the rest of the night until the morning. So I expected that very strong earthy kiwi to flood as the main profile, but instead I got exactly what he described, pink kiwi. The kiwi is definitely shining in this recipe, where I normally find it to be kind of dull. That's why the earthiness comes into it, and sometimes even dirty. But in this case, it's very sweet, like a sweet gooey nectar. The image in my mind, or something I explained to my wife, was we used to have like these red flowers all around Pretoria where we grew up. So there's this it's a small bush with red flowers, and if you pick a flower and you pull the bottom part
you suck it out.
Yes, out of
Yes.
the flower, you squish it. There's like this drop of nectar, and this kind of reminded me. The sweetness from this reminded me of that flower. It's not floral, but it's nectar. It's sweet.
Dude,
So
that was so weird because we did the same
yeah, I
thing.
was like, I told her, you remember that? She's like, yeah. I didn't know that you guys, so many people, it was such a thing. But we did it. Yeah, we stuck the flowers, man.
What the
So
hell were we doing? Sucking
weird,
on
weird.
flowers.
South African kids,
And you say you're not into
play
florals. Come on.
That's maybe why I stuck on too many flowers. So, it works very well for me with sweetener. I like my sweetness, so I added sweetener at 0.3, and it works very well. It kind of complements the kiwi, like makes it a more ripe, sweet ripe fruit. So as you guys know, if you've seen some of my recipes, you'll see that I like to mix sweet, not because of I like sugar. I actually don't eat any sugar at all in my diet or coffee or anywhere. But when it comes to fruit, I eat a lot of fruit, and I like ripe fruits. And the best fruits, in my opinion, is the fruits that are the sweetest. Especially, there's a specific point between ripe and that sweetness, and then overripe. That perfect sweetness point is that's where I like to mix it. So I add my sweetener, and it complements this profile in a sense of a nice ripe, best of the harvest type of kiwi. The dragon fruit brings everything together in a way that the kiwi is boosted by the sweetness as if it was boosted by a ripe guava. So the guava profile isn't that prominent, but the sweetness I get in the guava, that pinkness, is coming from a ripe guava, a nice sweet guava. The dragon fruit also adds almost a jelly candied type of sweetness to the mix. So the sweetness from that guava, that ripe guava, and then with the dragon fruit that wraps it all up, I feel it gives it that not jelly candy feel or sweet, but this type of sweetness from a jelly candy. And then I also mixed a second batch up because this was so delicious, and I added WS23. Here in Cape Town right now, it is scorching. With all the weather saying it's raining, it's not. It's just very hot summer days, and this works beautifully for those summer days with a little bit of WS23. That coolant just works well. It's then a nice, fresh or refreshing nectar that you can then drink. So for me, this is a refreshing all-day vape. Definitely part of my permanent rotation. I have mixed it again. I'm going to mix it again. This is a 5 out of 5 for me. So a very, very, very good recipe. 3 ingredients. And I see in his notes, he says, while he was busy writing it, he says, laugh my ass off, I just realized it's a 3-to-1 recipe. So again, simple recipe, amazing results. It's not just because it's easy to mix 3 ingredients. The way this blends together is beautifully done. So very great recipe for me.
I just want to go back to something that you said earlier, and I can't agree with you more. Like the fruits that I like, of course, are the sweetest fruits. Like if there's a fruit basket at work every day, and there's apples, there's pears, there's strawberries, there's naartjies in there, and bananas, and the strawberries are the first. The strawberries and the naartjies are the first to go. So it's and those are the sweetest out of that bunch. Then right after that is the bananas, and then the apples and the pears kind of are the last ones to be taken, which is bizarre. But a lot of people say, I went into a shop the other day, and they had their house juice there. And I said, oh, what is your house juice? What is in there? What varieties do you have? What do you mix up? Because, of course, this guy's doing DIY, and, there's some common ground there. And, the first thing he praised himself with was that there's no sweetener in the juice. And then he just got me, like, disinterested in all his juice. I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine. I'll be off then. But if you're going to be, if you like fruits, authentic fruit is sweet. Okay, so if I'm not saying every single fruit is sweet, there's sweeter fruit out there, but if you're going to be mixing a strawberry juice, it needs to be sweet because strawberry is sweet. If you're going to be mixing a nachi or tangerine or orange, those things are very sweet, Mango, very sweet. Pineapple, very sweet, So you can't go, if you're going to go authentic, you have to go sweet,
I agree definitely.
Mm.
So if you see one of my fruit mixes floating around, it's sweet because
It's
sweet.
authentic.
It's the best of the harvest. So
is that it? Richard,
that's it
from anything else?
from us. No, wait, Richard had something.
I have two
Wait,
more.
Richard, do you like sweet fruits first?
No sweetener for me. I'll go and buy it Rudy and I'll go and buy it that shop, Theo.
You should really try my jelly bomb, Richard.
You'll make up with Rudy and me. No, I don't do sweetener, which is odd because I have a sweet tooth in real life.
Exactly.
I can feast on chocolates all day long. But
I mean, you only mix desserts. That must have sweetener.
I think
Desserts
they're
and
inherently
bakeries.
sweet, eh? I think desserts are inherently sweet. I don't know. I think, when they create some of the desserty flavors, there's some, EM embedded in the flavors, and I think some of those recipes are already sweet. I don't think they need that much sweetener. Some of the fruit.
Sweetener, I would stick with things like grapefruit, citrus and so on, which benefits from a bit of sweetener just to knock those edges off. But desserts and bakeries with things like meringue and various creams, Bavarian cream and stuff like that in it, they don't need sweetener in my view. They're sweet enough as is. But anyway, back to Tootall. The second recipe I mixed of his was his butter pecan vanilla bean milkshake. Now, I don't know if it's just me, but one thing I've noticed on ATF with the American mixes is there's a preference for nutty shakes. I mean, I've seen peanut butter milkshakes, I've seen pecan milkshakes, I've seen almond milkshakes, hazelnut milkshakes. Now, is that just an American thing? Am I missing something in South Africa that we're not really that big into nutty shakes?
Peanut butter. We've got peanut butter shakes here, which has become like a very popular thing over the last, say, three to 4 years. It started off with Kauai and their peanut butter bomb. But I mean, Kauai is a Hawaiian brand, and that comes from, that's American, right? So the influence is definitely from there. But yeah, I don't think it's that popular over here as what it is in the States.
Yeah, I can't remember ever in my youth having a milkshake that had any sort of nuts in it. Ice cream, sure, but not shakes. So anyway, I was intrigued by this. It's 4% Flavor West butter pecan, 0.5% ethyl maltol, 1% TFA malted milk, 2.5% cap vanilla bean ice cream, and 1.5% of FA Vienna cream. So pretty simple profile. You've got 3 sort of milky ice cream type things for your milkshake base. You've got butter pecan as the top notes, and then ethyl maltol just to knock a bit of those rough edges off the creams and to help sweeten up and blend the whole thing together. So quite a simple recipe, and I was intrigued by the whole concept of a butter pecan milkshake. I mean, I've never had anything like that in real life, and this works really well for me. Of course, FW butter pecan is a winner flavor in almost everything it's used in, so it's immediately appealing to me. What I like most about this recipe is that the exhale has a very interesting and novel sort of character about it. What happens is the first part of the exhale, you get that very prominent butter pecan characteristic note, but then as the exhale goes on, you get kind of hints of milky and buttery notes interspersing with that nuttiness, which makes it very interesting and fresh to vape. I've really been enjoying this. The pecan note is quite mild, which I like as well. I found with a lot of nut mixes that there's a tendency to overdo the nut. It then becomes a very prominent top note, and it becomes dry. It gets that sort of acrid, burnt character that many nut flavors have. And this recipe avoids that entirely. The pecan is mild, it's well behaved, it's flavorful, it's moist. This has a very good texture to it. That buttery nut sits very nicely within that quite thick malted milk base with the Vienna cream and the Cap Vbic as well. I don't get very much vanilla bean from it. The vanilla is there, but it's just as a support for the butter pecan. And overall, I was pleasantly surprised by this. I didn't have high expectations for it because nuts and shakes, just don't really go that well together for me. But this hangs together very well. It works much better than the previous recipe of his I tried, the blue Zeppela. This hangs together much better as a sort of holistic whole. Tasty, easy to vape, flavorful, very interesting exhale. So I will definitely mix this. Again, it was a very pleasant surprise. Then on to the third one, and this to me is Tootall's banger. And it's the lemon meringue cannoli. Now, the word cannoli in a recipe immediately piques my interest.
Okay, yeah, you've got my attention as well, yeah?
Okay, I'm looking for that replacement for Simply
Cannoli, yes.
Yeah, and when I saw this, it's got a lot of ingredients in, but they're all staple ingredients. They're all things that everybody should have in their stash. Let me just run through it. 0.5% Inawera biscuit, 0.5% FA cookie, 2% FA custard, 3.5% FA lemon Sicily, 0.5% FA lime Tahiti cold pressed, 1.5% FA meringue, 2% Cap New York cheesecake, 0.25% of FA nonna's cake. That's probably the only slightly esoteric ingredient in it. 4% Cap vanilla custard, 0.5% FA Vienna cream. So it's almost all FA, a little bit of Cap and some Inawera, but all really staple banger flavors.
Did you use the reformulated Inawera biscuit?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
This is with reformulated biscuit, but I found that in this one, it actually works. So there's a lot going on there. There's two custards. There's the lemon Sicily, which is perked up a little bit by the lime Tahiti cold pressed. There's the cookie and biscuit and nonna's cake together as a kind of crusty base with the nonna's cake adding a bit of spice. There's the New York cheesecake, that tangy filling that's sitting together with the custards and the Vienna just to bulk it out a little bit. So it's a complex recipe, but this recipe, again, unlike the blue Zeppela that I started this review section with, this recipe appears to have gone through a lot of batching, a lot of blending, a lot of homogenizing to get those different layers to work together and to hang together as a whole. And it does it really, really, really well. One of the things I find about meringue is that most recipes that feature meringue, you don't actually taste the meringue. It's just used there as a sort of powdered sugar note. In this one, my interest was piqued by the fact that the meringue is used at 1.5%, which is quite high for FA meringue. Usually it's used at around the 0.5 to 0.75 mark. So I expected at 1.5 to get a little bit of actual meringue flavor in this, and it does register. It does come through. It's a really well formulated, well balanced mix for me. The lemon with the lemon Sicily with the lime Tahiti cold pressed has just enough zing that it's not a candy lemon, but it's also got that inherent sweetness in it. So it works really well as a cannoli cream. The custards together, particularly with the citrus note from the FA custard, backs up that lemon really well, adds that good thick filling together with the Cap New York cheesecake, that sort of tangy filling that the Cap New York cheesecake brings. If there was going to be a criticism or a note, it would probably be the same as for Simply Cannoli, that the actual pastry part, cannoli, probably doesn't register strong enough. The pastry part of this is a little bit stronger than Simply Cannoli, but again, it's so difficult to get that thin, flaky pastry note that a cannoli has.
Yes.
Yeah, and this gets close enough for me. That biscuit and cookie combination works pretty well.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs more pastry. I like my bakeries to have bodies, but in this case, that filling is just supreme. That thick, slightly zesty, but overall sweet, dense, creamy, lemony filling just does it for me. Obviously, this has a lemon note that Simply Cannoli doesn't really. But if you want a lemon version of Simply Cannoli with that very pleasant, just a little tang of actual meringue flavor in there, this one does it. This to me is the best of all of Tootall's recipes that I've tried. This isn't the first time I've mixed this up. This recipe has been in my rotation for a long time. As soon as I finish it, I mix up the batch. It's the best blended, it's the best batched, and for me, it's just the best formulated recipe of the ones that he's done that I've tried. So, this is a win.
Power to him.
Great creamy texture. It has that lightness of cannoli, but it's also filling. It's not a thin juice. It's got that denseness, but it at the same time it maintains that lightness of a cannoli filling. So this is top class mixing. It's a really appealing juice, a very tasty juice, and it's something that I can vape, almost all day, which for me is rare. But this is a winner. This comes very close to a 5 for me.
That's cool. That's nice to know. Now I've got a replacement there to replace Simply Cannoli with. I'll definitely mix this one up. Thanks, Rich. Is there another recipe that you did?
No, that was the 3 from Tootall. Did I kill Deetz? Where's he gone?
Yeah, he might have just been really disinterested and just left.
I'm going to start talking bakeries. Deetz's connection drops.
It seems to be an ongoing thing, eh? Yeah, thank you so much, Tootall, for putting out all these recipes. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into that. I'm trying to do a little bit of a development myself in my spare time, and I understand how much effort goes into it. And just looking at how much you put out there, thank you so much. That really adds so much dimension, to this community, and you should just keep on doing that.
What I'll be doing as well, just looking through Tootall's stuff, there's so much stuff that he's got that I'm, that far away from being able to mix the OG. So I'll be trying quite a number of his recipes with subs, just seeing, if the sub works, and trying some of his really interesting stuff where I'm just that one concentrate
short. Yeah.
Short. There's a lot of stuff there that piqued my interest. Of course, he's into his bakeries and desserts, which is my ballpark. So he's a mixer that I'll be mixing a lot more of.
Yeah, he's got quite a diverse palate, because he also, he's into his fruits as well, which goes to show, there's a little bit of depth here when it comes to recipes. I mean, if I think about what I'm doing right now, is I'm just mixing up fruit because that's what I like. To even start considering to try and mix up a dessert, it just seems too complicated, too far away from what I'm into right now. So for somebody that can, conceptualize desserts at the same time as conceptualize fruit recipes, there's a lot of dimension and character there. I really appreciate that. But yeah, thank you so much, Tootall. Thoroughly enjoyed this mix of yours. I'm definitely going to be mixing this Dragon's Breath up as soon as I finish my batch, which is almost done. I don't really, that little thing in there is from the mixer, but I don't always finish up my samples, but this one is going to be finished up and it's going to be replaced with at least about a 30 or 50 mil. So I really enjoyed that one. I didn't give that one a rating because, of course, I didn't have FLV Blood Orange. But, if I have to give that a rating just with the sub that I used in there, which I think is probably, one of the better Blood Orange out there, which is Flavor West. This would be very close to a 5 for me as far as a fruit recipe goes. This is extremely close to, what I like to vape. So yeah, really thoroughly enjoyed that. So thank you very much, Tootall. And thank you for everybody who watched this show. Also remember, if there's any questions that you have or any recipes that you've tried off Tootall that we haven't, that you want to talk about, please leave those in the comments below and we can carry on the chat over there. Thank you so much, guys. Cheers.